Bill Carroll. Happy New Year to all of Zitty 62 Media. And I'm going to walk you through the New Year's Six Bowl games and, of course, particularly spending some time on the opt outs and injuries. So, the ReliaQuest Bowl, yes, if you're of a certain age, these things just roll right off the tongue. Beautiful Tampa, Florida. Shout out to my friend Mark the Shark. LSU, of course, was expected in many circles to be a team contending for at least the playoffs, if not a national title. They're now in this game versus Wisconsin, which had a somewhat disappointing year as well. Uh, Jackson McGowan, George Helmsley, who's a back. Helmsley's a backup quarterback. Armani Goodwin, another backup quarterback. Tavion Falk is out. Those are transfer portal guys. Trey Bradford's also out into the transfer portal, and Jaden Daniels is out because of the draft. However, the top receivers are still there, so that helps LSU to, I think, still be very competitive in this game. Wisconsin has some players that are out as well. Keontez Lewis is out in the transfer portal, as is Chimere Dike. Miles Burkett, who is a quarterback. Another wide receiver, Skylar Bell. Braylon Allen is out for the draft, and I would say wisely so. And Bryson Green is questionable with an ankle. Against the spread, LSU was 8-4 this year. Wisconsin's 5-6-1, and LSU's gone over in the over/under 11 out of 12 times. And Wisconsin, not too surprising, has gone under 4 out of 8 times. The pace is actually closer than you might think. Wisconsin is only 24.2 points per play. LSU comes in at 26.4. The spread is LSU is giving 10 to Wisconsin. I'm going to end up saying I'm going to take that 10 and take Wisconsin. Not that I think Wisconsin wins, but I think that LSU breaking in a new quarterback uh, will win this game, but it'll be more run centric, more, and they'll slow it down maybe even more than they normally would. To introduce you very briefly to who will be the leading them, they went 9-3, so it's not, I would say, disappointing season. Maybe disappointing is too strong a word, but I think they would, like I said, they were hoping to contend for a national championship. But uh, Brian Thomas is going to be a NFL wide receiver, and of course Malik Neighbors may be. I mean, depending on who you ask, he's number 3 or 4 on the low end to number 1. Some people even have him over Marvin Harrison Jr. So that's how good he is. And you're going to get introduced to Garrett Nussmeier, who is, of course, from a football family. His father is a well-known offensive coach, smart guy, very different kind of player from Jane Daniels. Not that Jane Daniels is smart, but I mean, Nussmeier is your classic sort of game manager plus. And when I say game manager plus, I'm talking about we just saw, what the game manager plus can do. Uh, Case Keenum, uh, uh, Gardner Minshew, right? He's sort of more in that mold than what they had in Jane Daniels. I still believe LSU will prevail, but I think more like 8 wins, 8 points. I'm thinking 23-31, somewhere in that range. Moving on down the line. For the other games that are, of course, of interest, Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Say that 5 times fast. The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that, despite the old joke that Steve Spurrier made in his days at Florida, can't spell citrus without UT. This is still a good bowl game. And once again, it's similar to what we just talked about. A team wants to slow it down and pound you versus Tennessee. I think Tennessee prevails, though. Iowa's going to make it tough. Then we get to the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, which used to be a big, big deal. It's still a big deal, actually. Chance for Liberty to show their wares to the world. There's some bowl season opt-outs for Oregon. I still think Oregon prevails, but I think it's super close. And I will not be shocked at all, if Liberty pulls the upset. But I'm going to say that it's barely a cover for Oregon. And then that brings us to the semifinal, right? The Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, played every year in Pasadena. I love this game. This is a game that I would have, as a kid, watched the entire pageantry of the parade and all that good stuff, and now we just watch the games. Life has changed for us, but I'm going to talk about this game and break it down a little bit. Obviously, Michigan has been one of the best teams in football. It's not really a surprise to anybody. Michigan's always very good. The thing that's different about the last few Michigan teams and this Michigan team, I think they're more explosive than Michigan's been in the past. Their defense has gotten better and better and better each year. And I'm really, really glad to see, despite all of the furor, and if Michigan's guilty, I hope they get some sort of punishment, but to see how the team, the actual players, have uh, sort of locked in, and it's in fact increased, to use an old military term, their unit cohesion, right? The Michigan versus everybody, or Michigan versus the world, or whatever you want to call the their what do you call it? Their what do you want to call it? But I'm gonna go really briefly back to Oregon. Oregon had the number 2 offense in the nation, second only to LSU, right? But Liberty is a top 5 offense as well. And while this will be the most athletic defense they faced some good defenses. Oregon, 11th best scoring defense in the country, and they played some strong offenses. And that's what I think is really the key to Oregon winning. I think Oregon's going to prevail because their defense does some things that allows them to survive. No matter, I'm going to say no matter who, but despite some of the things that they're losing in this particular matchup. But it's a fun game. And Tennessee's getting 5.5 versus Iowa. I think they barely cover that. I think they get to 6. Oregon getting 18 scares me. You know what? I'm going to switch my pick. I'm going to go with Liberty. 18 is too many. I think they beat them by maybe 14, maybe even 17, but 18 seems too high. Okay, now back to the Rose Bowl game, which is, going to be amazing, right? I mean, I think we're all predicting that it's going to be a great, 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 great game. And the fun thing, or amongst the fun things about this game, I would say, is once again we talk about the contrast in styles. The Crimson Tide. These are the definition of 2 blue blood programs, right? 2 of the most storied programs in the history of the game, and Michigan. I think at least in part because of what they've been through, a lot of their guys who normally would have opted out will not. I think that they're going to, people can say what they want, but these guys want to win football games, right? You don't go to these programs and compete as hard as you can to get there. Alabama's, I think, favored by 1.5. I'm probably going to regret this later. I'm taking Michigan. I think that either they lose by 1 or they win by 1 or 2. It's just going to be a super close game. To me, it's boring as it sounds, defense in the run game. I think Michigan's defense is actually the better defense. And I'll be either proven right or wrong. But I think that their defense manages to force a few turnovers. I think it's 2-1. And I think the 2-1 turnover margin ends up being the thing that turns it for them. And then another semifinal game that I'm really focused on, of course, is Texas-Washington. I've been leaning Washington, and then I had to start really digging into, the numbers. They've won 20 straight games, right? Kalen DeBoer quietly has become one of the superstars in college coaching. Michael Penix is a guy that was rightly a very strong contender for the Heisman. And, of course, Quin Ewers has had a really good time transferring. Since he's transferred from Ohio State, he threw for 452 yards in some of their biggest games of the year, right? In their Big 12 championship game versus Oklahoma State, a gutty but frankly a little bit undermanned Oklahoma State. Dylan Johnson, to me, is the key to the game for Washington. Michael Penix will do Michael Penix things, and they might maybe force a turnover out of him, but he's pretty careful with the football. But Dylan Johnson, if he goes for, to me, the number is like 114. If you get 114 yards out of Dylan Johnson, maybe a couple rushing touchdowns, that puts Texas in a bind. They have a really good defense, loaded with people going to play on Sundays. And I'm just going to ever so slightly continue to lean Washington. I think that they have the slightly more buttoned up quarterback situation, and I think that might pull it out for them. And once again, I might well be proven wrong. I'll walk through a couple of things, and then I will I'll join the rest of you watching these games. So, like I said, I think LSU is going to win, but I don't think they'll win by 10. 18 seems like too much to me. And the other games are, of course, very, very close. The spreads are 1, 1.5, or 2. But I guess I'm taking in many of those cases the team that's considered to be the slight underdog. I think that Michigan survives a Alabama, and I think that why Washington would be not considered the favorite. I guess comes down to sort of a regionalism. Obviously, Texas is Texas, and people have a tendency to believe that Texas football is the best. Blah blah blah. But that's me. Those are my predictions. And once again, I hope you're all having a great time with your families. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful 2024. Bill Carroll, Zenny 62 Media, out.